Chapter 1071. However, Ryder had left right after delivering that message, thus Mark did not know for sure what was going on. Because of that, Mark had asked for all the information there was on Wesley Miller and had spent the entire night looking at it. It was only this morning that Mark finally understood what had happened. Vale, Chansey, and Laurent had restructured the Exodus Province business industry under the guise of forming a business alliance, usurping many smaller businesses and corporations through unsavory methods. Victims had tried filing reports in the past few months, begging for help, yet they all fell on deaf ears. Nothing came out of it. It was only through Mark's investigation that he found out about Hugh providing support to the three men behind the scenes. Hugh was the reason all these reports had never reached the higher-ups. He was the person in charge of Denson City and held quite a bit of power given his position. Under his insistence to keep the whole thing under wraps, there was nothing most people could do about it. Mark was furious upon finding out. This was a classic case of the government being in cahoots with rich businessmen to pull a scheme off, and Mark would not have heard a thing about it had he not demanded to go through Wesley's files. It was important to note that Wesley had not been the only victim of this. This restructuring had done immense damage to the Exodus Province business industry morale, and the consequences would be dire if nothing was done about it. On top of that, the Department of Paranormal Research and Defense had gotten involved as well. That was a department of the highest power in North Seacher. Albert's men were now involved in this case, which meant that Mark was in hot water. His future would be toast if he were to screw this up. Mark wasted no time upon confirming what had happened, calling for his men to gather at once before rushing to the scene. Judging from how things looked, however, things had clearly escalated. Mark only glanced coldly at Hugh and the others. "Hugh, I thought the Business Chamber Alliance was an industry event. What are you doing being a part of this?" Those words were straightforward enough to be rarely heard from someone in the government. Hugh furrowed his brows. "Oh, it's all just for work. The government has a part to play in the business development of Exodus Province too. I was just assisting them." "Really? What about Wesley Miller's case then?" Mark demanded sharply. Hugh's chest lurched at the words, breaking out into a cold sweat at once. Hugh knew a thing or two about what happened to Wesley, but Wesley had just been out of many victims, and Hugh had not paid much attention to it. To Hugh, these people were just collateral damage. Only people like Vale deserved Hugh's attention. But now that Mark was asking about it, it seemed like things were not as simple anymore. Amidst his terror, Hugh stammered, "I'm not too sure about what happened with Wesley Miller." Mark sneered coldly. "Go on, Mr. Vand." Behind Mark, the person in charge of the prosecutor's office, Soravana, stepped out holding a file. He flipped it open emotionlessly before opening his mouth to speak. On the 18th, Wesley Miller filed a report that his family company had been scammed off him, which led to his parents' consecutive deaths. The report reached a city handler's office, and there was no news after that. Mr. Miller filed 2 more reports after that asking for help, but both went quiet after reaching the city handler's office. Hugh's sweat trickled profusely, dripping onto the floor. At the same time, many other business owners such as Mr. Derek Jeker, Mr. Ron Gosen, and Mr. Sherman Lovey, among others, had filed similar reports asking for help. All of their companies had been taken from them by Yoma Corp, Marshall Corp, and Weber Corp through unscrupulous methods as well. Everything was taken from these people, but their reports stopped receiving any attention after they reached a city handler's office.